When we don't surrender to God as God, everything falls apart. In our reading today in Genesis 4-7, we see clearly how when our relationship with God is not right, when we decide that we want to be God, that we want to do things our own way, then our relationships with one another fall apart as well. We see in these chapters just how wicked humanity became from the beginning, and we see just how merciful God continued to be. It starts in chapter 4 with the story of two brothers offering sacrifices before the Lord. Abel, it says, gave God the best of his flocks and herds, and he did it gladly. And because of that, the Lord was pleased, and he received Abel's sacrifice. Cain, on the other hand, we're told he gave the Lord something. He gave him some of the produce from his crops, but he apparently did it out of obligation and not from a heart of true worship, because it says the Lord was not pleased with his offering. He didn't accept it. And that should tell us something, by the way, that God's not impressed because we go to church all the time or get involved in all the activities. He's not happy with us just because we do a bunch of religious things. What he wants is our heart. And Cain proved that his heart was not right before God, because when the Lord told him he didn't receive his offering, rather than humbling himself and repenting, Cain actually got angry at the Lord for not accepting his half-hearted offering to the Lord. And then Cain's anger became jealousy towards his brother. 1 John 3 verse 12 says that Cain killed his brother because his actions were sinful and his brother's actions were righteous. The Lord pursues Cain. He doesn't kill him. He pursues him. And he tells him that from now on, as a consequence, he's going to have to wander around the earth looking for food. It's not going to come from the ground through his work like it used to. And again, rather than Cain humbling himself and repenting, he accuses the Lord. He gets angry and he says, hey, this punishment isn't fair. If I'm wandering around the earth, someone might find me and kill me, which, by the way, he deserved because he just killed his own brother. But look at the mercy of God and how patient he is with Cain. The Lord agrees. He says, I'll put a mark on you so that anybody that sees you will not kill you. So Cain doesn't acknowledge God as God. He gives him a half-hearted offering. He kills his brother out of jealousy. He lies to God about it. And then he accuses God of being unfair to him. If anybody deserved to die, it was Cain. But instead, God shows him mercy. He covers Cain's guilt, and he delivers him from the death that he deserved. And right here again in Genesis 4, for the second time, we see a preview of what Christ did for us at the cross. But the pride and sinfulness of man just kept getting worse and worse. Cain's great-great-grandson, Lamech, kills a man. Now, rather than appealing to God for mercy, Lamech declares mercy on himself. He thinks he can be God. He puts himself in the place of God. He says, well, if Cain is protected from punishment for murder, then I am protected 10 times as much. Well, by the time we get to Genesis 6, it says that the wickedness of man was so bad that he didn't just do a lot of bad things, but every thought and motive of the heart of people was continually, it says, all the time, 24/7, evil. Verses 11-12 say the whole earth was corrupt. It was filled with violence. Nobody was innocent. And it got so bad that God said, I'm sorry that I even created humans. I'm sorry that I even made them, and I'm going to destroy the whole earth with a flood. But God didn't give up on his plan. From the beginning, he wanted to fill the earth with people who would be filled with his life, who would know his love, who would reflect his goodness and his glory in their lives. And he wasn't going to give up on that. There was one man who still walked with God, one man who still acknowledged God as God, Noah. And in his mercy, God made a way for humanity to continue. He made a way for Noah and his family to do through them what he originally intended to do through Adam and Eve. And then God tells Noah to do something crazy. Even though there's not a lot of water around, he tells him to build a huge boat and to take his family on board, along with 2 of every species of animal on earth, and then wait for the floods to come. But Noah knew God. Even though what he was telling him to do didn't make a lot of sense, Noah did what anyone does when they really know him, when they really acknowledge God and surrender to him as God. Noah obeyed and he trusted. He built the ark. He took his family and the animals on board. And I love this. It says, and God closed the door. And then he kept his word. The floods came just like God said they would. Every living thing on earth, except for what was on the ark, was destroyed, just as God said it would be. Because even though the earth had become so wicked, God in love was not willing to give up on his plan to fill the earth with people who would be like him, who would know him, who would walk with him, who would be filled with his love and his goodness, who would experience his faithfulness, and who would reflect his glory in their lives. In his mercy, God did what he always does in the midst of a wicked world. He preserved a remnant of faithful and godly people who walk with him, who trust him to be God. So in these chapters, again, we see that the pride and the sinfulness and the rebellion of man is bigger than we could ever imagine. But once again, we also see that the mercy and the relentless love and faithfulness of God is much, much bigger still.